So I'm Pat Watkins, Chris's brother, oldest brother, older brother, only brother. Struggle's real today. I started at 7:30 yesterday morning and was still writing an offer at 10 o'clock last night and went from one to the next. So just to be real truthful, the struggle's real today.
So I would agree with that. It's been a long couple of weeks.
Yeah. So sure. But anyway, I'm Pat Watkins, one of the owners of Mike Watkins Real Estate Group. I've been doing this almost 28 years in 2 months. So I've been selling houses for quite a while. I'm to the point it's the only thing I know, and I love still doing it. So
and you're getting old.
And I am getting old, yeah.
And I'm Chris Watkins, and Pat's younger brother, also the one with no hair. Been doing this almost 21 years, so it's in our blood. It's pretty much what we know, all we know, eat, sleep, and drink real estate. Just ask our families.
Yep. So we're going to cover kind of a range of whatever. I mean, we're going to get some brothers. We're going to tell some stories. You're going to get real estate tips. You're going to get kind of the real us. We'll probably introduce you to our staff. I'd love to introduce you to my wife. I don't know if she will go for that, but we'll see. That may take a little bit of bribing at this point. She is a part-time employee, so we'll see if we have any pull here. She may do it for you, but she may tell me to go to hell.
I highly doubt it. So I'm pretty sure I'm on the same level playing field as you with her. So
yeah. So it's going to be a little bit of everything. All right. So a couple things. Let's just get into the team. So starting in no particular order, but we're going to start with Jess. That works for us. She started out as our intern for the summer.
Yep.
Had to bribe her to stay. She agreed to. Fantastic addition. She'll be with us for a little bit longer, and then at some point is going to get married and move back to northern Indiana. So we'll be crying a little bit when she leaves, but so she's got a little bit longer with us. So she is doing a lot of our social media, helping with some banners, some print, things like that. We've got Barb, my wife of almost 23 years. God bless her soul, for sure. For sure. She's a saint. I tell everybody all the time I would never get remarried because I could not do as well as what I've done. So Barb does all of our print marketing, works part-time, and for the sake of our marriage, she works from home. So I don't think she needs to be with me all the time. And then
nobody needs to be with you all the time.
Well, you are.
Sure.
Jake is a new addition in our marketing department. So we've got 3 people in our marketing department, not including what I do too. Okay. But Jake came to us, social media expert, video, editing. Super excited to have him. He sold a company with 100,000+ followers, and he's with us now. So we've made big changes. You're seeing a lot happen behind the scenes. Or actually, I should say we have a lot happening behind the scenes that you're starting to see the changes in our social media because we're trying to make it more real and it's more us. Then we got Sally, Sally was a past client. She's worked for us a couple of years now.
Almost 3.
Well, I mean, it's a couple plus 1.
Yeah.
Office manager, she and her husband Jake and their son Eli bought and sold like 3 or 4 houses before she worked.
Yeah, and then don't forget Sally's mom and dad actually started out as clients of our dads.
Well, I think our dad recruited Sally's dad
to college
when Dad was in admission.
So needless to say, Sally's been around our family a very long time.
Yep.
So she knows how to put up with 2 brothers and just kind of laugh it off and go
Thank
down
God
the road.
she does.
Yeah.
And then Jessica has been with us 7 years.
7 years, yeah.
God bless her too.
Yeah.
She picks up behind us. She's licensed real estate agent assistant, does literally everything we ask her to do, kind of sits, her office is between our 2, and
she cleans up behind us. I mean, that's
lets
really
us
what it
bark at her and doesn't take offense and just does it. So, but we have a great staff, super grateful to have everybody, really proud of them, proud of what we have here, and just thrilled to be part of a family. So,
I would agree. Nicely done. It's anytime we get into a spring market, we go from 0 to 100, overnight. You're chasing the business. We tell everybody, it's not a hidden secret. We will do nearly half of our yearly volume in about a 3.5 to 4 month time frame. So my wife and kids know very much Dad's probably not going to be around a whole lot during spring and early summer, and then as we get closer to school, going back in session, life does slow down briefly. And it really is kind of what happened the last few weeks. I mean, the spring market hit, and we started running, full bore. We got a few houses that hit the market for buyers, and it's, trying to juggle family life, and my wife was out of town for a conference, and so I was jockeying kids to and from where they needed to be, on top of trying to get to clients as houses were hitting, listing appointments. So it was the candle was burning at both ends, to say the least. So, Friday and Saturday night, and even part of Sunday evening. Sunday's sacred to us, but there still are contract deadlines that need to be met and everything else. So it's on the phone, emails, everything that trying to get stuff wrapped up. But they were 12, 13-hour days on Friday and Saturday, and plus you're running 60 to 80 hours a week this time of year. So you get days like this where you kind of come in, and Tuesday as a whole for us is kind of the almost, I don't want to say slow day of the week, but that's when you see less inventory hit the market. It's just kind of that odd day of the week.
Where we work on the business, we work on it. We have our team meetings. We have our marketing meetings. We work on the internal stuff that has to be done through that on Tuesdays as well. So we purposely kind of hold certain hours sacred during that time frame,
like
just
this,
to keep
film, and it's a different piece of the business that we're working on.
Correct.
But it not necessarily go on appointments.
Is your chair taller than mine?
It's because I am taller.
Oh,
so
okay.
Sorry, by that whole inch. So squirrel. Welcome to Pat. So we'll just change subjects. Do a 180 just on the fly. So,
but we are a good balance because. It's me in general, and then Chris thinks it through, and then has choice words for me, and then usually we get to the same page. But
most of the time, one of us has to be a little bit more reserved, a little bit more analytical, and Pat's very much like our dad. So it's just
reserved, quiet.
Sure, we're gonna call it that. So so that was pretty much the life of the last week, and kind of go from there. So, oh man, behind the scenes. Where do you start with the behind the scenes? There's a lot of stuff. I think there's a misconception for one. I think
it's not HGTV.
No, it's not HGTV. It's not Fox 59, CNN. It's none of this stuff where people. I think there's a misconception out there. Real estate's easy, and yes, we've been in a seller's market for a number of years, and there's been a lack of inventory. So if you were a breathing body, did you have a client? Potentially. Were houses getting sold in a normal market? Remember, Pat and I've been doing this a very long time. We've seen many different types of markets. We remember the days where houses would sit on the market 3 to 6 months were the average, not 3 to 6 hours. And so and I think it kind of goes back into, the blood, sweat, and tears that we put into this business. And I always remember, Dad growing up saying, you guys just don't understand. I wake up in the middle of the night of thinking of stuff. Did this get done? Did that get done? Is that family taken care of? Is payroll, done? And guess what? Now we're at that phase of our life doing the same thing. But there's a ton that goes on behind the scenes that the general public doesn't know, and it's not just working on one transaction, but it's running the business. It's making sure we're working with multiple different people at the same time, and so you're dropping what you're doing because a house hits the market and you got to run. So family life, ask our families. There's not one. There's not a work-life balance. Unless you're selling 1-2 houses, here and there, then that's a different type of situation. But we've been doing this a long time,
but the systems are in place.
They are.
We have everything down. We keep track of it.
Sure, we're old school. We've got right over here, dry erase board.
Yeah.
Upstairs, we've got dry erase boards everywhere. We've got the technology, but at the same time, we still like to be able to go out and
we're very visual.
We
know what our strengths are.
Yeah.
And everybody in the office thinks the same way.
For the most part.
And everybody's very visual.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just, for us, it's easier. It's a visual spreadsheet, basically.
Yeah.
With all the steps that have to be completed per transaction.
Well,
the misconception is HGTV makes it look like you meet your client, you show 3 houses, it looks fun, they buy a house, and then you make money.
Right.
And they don't show you everything behind the scenes of what's going on, and that's probably, more of what we need to concentrate on too, and really show people. Like last week was rough. I had 6 inspections at one time,
and not one of them was easy. You're still fighting. You're still fighting.
Still fighting
a couple of them.
2, and I'm everything from replacing sewer lines to
drainage systems and
crawl spaces, biological growth, which not as big a deal.
Right.
I had to tell a seller last week to basically kill the deal. They had a very unrealistic buyer that wanted some stuff over the top, and we just gut feeling said, I don't think this is ever going to close. And I found out a little bit behind the scenes kind of what was going on with the buyer, and I just said, I just don't feel like this is ever going to happen. And had to tell the seller, let's start over, and was willing to do that. Yeah. And just knew that we couldn't probably save something.
And that's not a phone call you want to make. I mean, and the other side of that too is, I think we care so much because we know how it affects our employees, it affects us, but we're on that emotional roller coaster with our clients because we do feel like they are part of this family. I mean, there's a reason why we have, the database that we've built over the years with all of our past clients, and we know that, the majority of our business is repeat business or referral business from those clients. So we want them to have a good experience. But the flip side of it is, we want people to be taken care of because that's how we want to be taken care of when we're in a different setting.
Well, and here's the thing we take it to heart because the people that we deal with, it's the biggest purchase or the biggest sale of their life.
Absolutely.
That's why we're not in jeans, and we're probably old school. We're still in dress clothes. Right. We still wear dress shoes. But it's a sign of respect, but then we take it to heart knowing that these are humongous financial situations.
And it doesn't matter the price point. I mean, it's, I'll never forget one of a past client of ours. It was his very first house ever, and it wasn't, by today's standards, it's not an expensive home, but he was crying at the table because he was sitting there saying, I never thought I'd be able to own a home. Mm-hmm. And so, you look at the emotional impact that, this has on somebody, and it has an emotional impact on us. I mean, we live and die by those transactions as well because we do care so much.
Well, and it becomes more than it's not a transaction. Like we get to know people to their roots. Like we get their financial situations, their financial history. You meet the family. I'm now selling kids that were itty bitty.
You're old.
Yeah, I know. But I'm selling some of my clients' kids' houses now. And you're right, it does make me feel old, but I also have a 20-year-old in college, so he's not that far away.
Sure.
And so we become friends and family, and almost like that relative that you see once a year, twice a year at like a family reunion, but you can go right back to them, or a high school friend that, I don't talk to on a daily basis because he lives halfway across the country, but I can always pick him up. It's like we never quit talking. So you get into those situations, and you're right. Like it you do become family, and you're giving advice, and you're entrenched in it.
Well, I think a lot of it is too. Our clients probably share more information with us than they need to in a lot of cases, but that also comes down to the trust factor.
Trust and comfort
they know
level
they can talk to us and it stays there. But enough that they trust us to help us, let us help them, get guided through one of their biggest purchases and emotional things in their life ever.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, I think that's pretty easy. Pat and I were raised in a very conservative household, plus also looking at from the business side. Our parents ran it, fiscally responsible, and we got to see that firsthand. When Pat and I bought the business from our parents, we were even more conservative than them.
But part of it was, it's a little bit different when you don't have a income that's guaranteed
absolutely
twice a month.
Absolutely.
And for us, we've always just been savers.
Yeah, savers and conservative. So we have been put in a position at this point, because of how we've chosen to do things, that, great case in point, I told a seller to kill their own deal. Mm-hmm. And I think they'll find a better buyer, but yes, we need to still sell houses at the end of the day. Yep. That's our job. Yep. We have overhead, we have employees. But at the end of the day, do I have to sell you a house today to pay payroll,
to pay payroll, no. To pay our bills? No, we don't. We both have, a reserve
and
if we'd ever need it.
Yeah, and so we tell that to literally everybody, that listing appointment buyer, out looking at houses. I've told buyers to walk and don't feel good about an offer, don't feel good about a house. I'm not there to sit here.
Correct.
I'm there to sell you a house, but I'm not there to sell you that house necessarily. I'm there to make sure that you get the best possible house for your budget.
Yep.
Or if you're a seller, we're there to get you the best terms and conditions. It is get out of our own way because you're hiring us to take care of you.
And guide you.
We get paid at the very end.
Yeah.
And so that's the way that we run the business. You're not going to make or break us whether you buy or sell a house today with what we do tomorrow from a financial standpoint with our personal lives or our business lives. And we know that's not true. I mean, we know there are a lot of agents out there that are literally looking for that next sale because they've got, bills to pay, and they've got, we know of situations where agents are in the process of losing houses or have lost houses on more than one occasion, and a lot of that's public information. You can find it pretty easily.
Yeah.
And so I think it kind of goes back to also the trust factor with our clients, because so many of them are repeat. And they know the family so well and how we operate.
Well, and I don't think we hold anything back. Like, we tell you like it is, good or bad, and we tell them up front, like, you're not hiring us to tell you what you want to hear. You're hiring us to tell you
what you need to hear.
Yeah. Good and bad. I mean, we just tell you both. And I got a call last night, and one of my clients was like, hey, I really want to see this house. And I said, hold on a second. Let me do a little bit of investigating. I said, I know where this is. I said, there's a little bit of sewer line issues there. Let me see if they've ever had a sewer scope done. I said, it's also on a basement wall. Let me see if it's a block basement. Went through the whole thing. And before I ever showed it, I had to call her and say, look, the basement wall has a bow in it. The seller's not willing to fix it. And I said, I already know that's a $7,000+ fix. And told her up front, and she texted me right back, and she goes,
never mind.
That's why you're my realtor, because I wouldn't use anybody else, because you guys are just so upfront, and it's not just about selling me any house, it's about finding the right thing for me.
Well, and we had another situation, a first-time buyer yesterday, and we've been out looking, we've got it really narrowed down, and generally, and I think you'll probably go, along the same lines, if a buyer's really good about telling us what they're looking for in the marketplace, typically in the first 3 to 5 houses that we've looked at, we know what they want.
Oh, yeah.
And so this particular buyer, we have been out looking, we've looked at probably 5 or 6 houses, and we wrote an offer this past week. We were in a multiple offer situation. We didn't end up with the house, so we're back to the drawing board. couple houses pop up yesterday. I knew realistically they weren't going to work. Just a neighborhood that has a ton of rentals. It's one of the neighborhoods that hedge fund groups targeted. So 10 to 15% of the neighborhood is owned by the hedge fund groups and our rental properties. And that's not really what this buyer wants to be surrounded by. But we had to go through the motions. We had to get there because I use it as a reference point. Did I expect him to write an offer on either one of these houses? I didn't. Both houses were in the same neighborhood, but it was the education piece. We hadn't seen anything in that neighborhood. It was an area that he wanted to be. So we went and looked at them and had the conversation about the neighborhood, about the rentals, and told him drive through it. And he literally said, yeah, I don't want to be in here. I said, great. Now, from this point forward, if you text me about an address, I'm going to say, hey, it's a good one. We need to go look at it. Or, no, this is a neighborhood that's very similar to this other neighborhood that we nixed off the list.
Right.
I mean, I think...
here's the thing. When you look at, first of all, if you're a buyer, before they ever... We know financing really well. Yeah. I mean, we use quite a few different lenders. We match buyer to
personality.
In program.
Yeah.
There's certain lenders that kind of just have the normal stuff, and then there's certain loan programs out there for nurses, chiropractors, veterinarians, doctors. I mean, there's just different. There's all kinds of stuff. There's 7-year ARMs that are fixed rates right now at 0.5% lower. Always staying on top of that, and we understand finance so well. But really, before a buyer ever goes into writing an offer, we can figure their payment for them really quick.
Oh, absolutely.
And know exactly where they're at before they ever write an offer, so they know their comfort level.
I've got buyers right now that literally, they'll either text me an address or I'll send them an address, and they say, what's the house payment, before we even want to go look at it. Because if it doesn't fit exactly where they want to be, they'll just nix it, regardless of what it is.
Right, correct. So, and then same thing, like you and I are old school, so we've been doing this so long, and we've got clients that are appraisers. So when we look at pricing a house or pulling comps for things, we kind of know how the appraisers are going to adjust for things.
Yep.
And we kind of go at it backwards.
Absolutely.
And not all these new agents are their top price per square foot, or the general public goes, well, price per square foot is $135 in this neighborhood. Well, it is and it isn't, because if a house has a basement and that basement is unfinished, or if it's finished and the homeowner finished it, or if it was professionally done, there's a big difference in price per square foot. And underground is priced differently than above grade. And so you have to know what those adjustments are, which we do, and you have to know the difference in houses and what you're using for price per square foot. And this whole Zillow thing, or agents that go, well, I feel like this is underpriced or overpriced on price per square foot because it's $135 a square foot or whatever. They're taking the overall total square footage, and that's not how it's done.
Well, and I think the other thing too you got to look at is, again, living through an '08 housing crash and what happened to a lot of these neighborhoods when the banks came back in and said, hey, guess what? The feds changed the game on us. Yep. You may be current on all your payments, but unless you can put 50% cash into the development, we're told to not renew your note. So then those private developers, those local developers, ended up not getting notes renewed and had to sell to the box stores, what we're going to call today as more of your modern semi-custom house, that $400,000 to $650,000, $700,000 house on the south side.
They're mixed in there.
They're mixed in with the custom houses, so you have to know the history of the neighborhood. The other thing too with pricing a house.
Well, back up a second. The reason that's important though is if you're looking at two houses in the same neighborhood, and I can name a couple of them right now, and you know exactly where I'm going. Yeah. You got a custom house here, and then you have a Drees house here. But the problem is we've done it so long, we know the difference in the quality in those two houses. But for the most part, most of the agents around are going to compare those two to the same, or try to do price per square foot based on that.
You can't.
They're two totally different houses.
Yeah.
Two totally different houses.
And the other thing too, I mean, kind of looking at it from the sales side in general. Mm-hmm. Look, human nature is every seller wants as much money as they can possibly get, and every buyer wants the best possible deal that you can get. And so, pricing a house, whether that be a buyer or a seller, it's one of those scenarios where did a seller price a house too high to the marketplace? They just threw it out there because of the environment we've been in the last few days. Or what is their background? You can have 5 houses on the same street that all look identical, but every story is unique. And so, what's the seller doing? Where are they going? What's the time frame? What are the hot buttons to selling?
Yep.
You know,
what are the extras?
What are the extras? But how do you as a seller? And that's one of the questions we have. What's your timetable? Because I'm probably going to give you a range, but if you need to be down the road into your next situation sooner rather than later, then we're probably going to be a little bit more aggressive and closer to what the comparables show versus somebody that says, hey, you know what? I really don't want to move for the next 60 days, but I also know this is go time. I'm going to probably be a little bit more aggressive on the price as far as starting it at a higher price point because I can always work it down because I have time on my side.
Well, again, based on time of year too.
Absolutely.
Because we know when the market starts to shift because we're in this block calendar school, we know exactly, literally what week in July we're going to probably go through a little bit of a slowdown kind of a thing. Yep. So we know what that market trend looks like, but we've also been through, this is a re-election year.
Right.
So we know what that looks like because we've been through it before.
Yeah.
And so we've been able to educate people on that because, again, we've been doing it for forever.
So, here's a question that I get asked a lot, and I'm going to ask you. Buyer has interest in a house. Mm-hmm. They see it online. Pat, I like this house. I like what I see, but I don't like the price. Why is it at this price? Why has it been out there for so long? It's been on the market for 45 days. What's your response?
Depends on, one, when it went on the market. 2, what's it look like with pricing? Is it priced right? And then we need to look at it because sometimes the days on the market doesn't equate correctly because if it's a house with a pool and they listed it in January and there's snow on the ground, that's not gonna that's not the buyer pool at that point. It's no different than I just sold a 55 and older house, and he goes, Pat, how come this has been out there for 30 days? And I said, because all your buyers are gone. You lose 30 to 40% of your buyers because they're snowbirds right now, and they don't come back until the end of March to the end of April. And I said, this house would not be sitting here if it was May 1st. I said, just change. I said, the market dictates that. The other thing is we also know when price ranges sell, and a lot of times we've told sellers, hey, I know you're thinking about reducing your price range isn't hot yet. It'll get there, but this price range is moving and this price range is moving. And we track all that data. So then it's educated decisions, not just, oh, wait a minute, I just need to drop the price on my house because that's what I need to do. No, that may not be what you need to do. You may be leaving money on the table, or if we drop it, we need to drop it to this range because this is where the buyer pool is. We just had that. You called that from the beginning and you even told them, hey, this house is priced here. Your buyer pool's at $450. You guys are priced above that. And the crazy thing is, as soon as they drop to that number,
sold in a week.
It's sold in a week because that's where the buyer pool was. And we kept watching the rates. If the rates had dropped, the buyer pool goes up.
Absolutely.
In price.
And they hadn't.
And the rates hadn't dropped. So, it's knowing all that. That's what you're hiring us to tell you. That's what you're hiring us to know. This is not just, hey, I got in and, I've made a splash. And I don't think people understand, the general public doesn't understand, nationwide, 49% of all realtors sold one house or less. So, the general public doesn't understand or doesn't know that 49% of all realtors nationwide sold one house or less.
And how many realtors are there nationwide? 1.5 million.
Yep.
So you're talking nearly 750,000 agents, one or fewer homes.
Yep.
So, okay, so here's another thing. what is the response when I get a buyer or a seller talking about reducing a price on a house? You know, I know where I'm at. I mean, if I'm looking at a house and I see that it's been on the market 30 to 45 days, and again, depending on time of year, what it actually is it priced appropriately, a number of factors, but I see the price at the same list price now 45 days later. I'm going to tell a buyer, you know, let's check it out, let's do the research, let me get back to you. Mm-hmm. But it could very easily be that the seller's not listening to advice. They may not be getting advice at all. Mm-hmm. The seller may be financially not able to reduce the price, mm-hmm. or they might be too hard-headed to drop the price for whatever that reason is, versus, again, every seller wants as much as they can get, so seller starts high. Yeah. 3 weeks goes by, price is reduced. Well, what's wrong with the house? There's nothing wrong with the house. That seller is listening to the market. They're listening that the buyers have rejected the price that they were at. Yep. They're listening to the advice of their agent or whatever it may be, but they're attuned to the market versus somebody staying stagnant. It's kind of the old adage of lot rot in the car industry. You know, if a house sits there, it sits there and sits there, and nothing has changed, nothing's new. Buyers, it's always the negative assumption of what's wrong with it. Why I like it, but why shouldn't I buy it?
That's how I bought my wife's car. I mean, it was a Ford sitting in a Chevy lot. They said nobody comes to the Chevy lot to buy a Ford.
You know, there you go.
I said, you're right. So this was kind of just real talk with Pat and Chris. So we're going to wrap it up today because obviously we got to go sell some houses. But hopefully this was informative, real. It's not us reading from a script. This was very raw. We're going to answer questions. If you got some, put them in the comments. If you are interested in getting our listings before they hit the market, hit the link below. You know, you can always follow us on all of our social media channels. And don't forget, MikeSoldMe.com. And we're out of here for today.